So can you see the board? Can you see the board? Can you see the board?
Yes, sir.
Okay, COPD. COPD. You have been taught about asthma. So true or false? Are you done with asthma?
Yes, please.
Yes,
You did
Doc.
asthma. You did asthma
Yes,
with you.
please. Dr. Bobo.
Okay. Okay, so tell me the difference between asthma and COPD, if you have any idea. Any idea about asthma, the difference between asthma and COPD?
Hello, Doc. Doc, please, I know that asthma is reversible, but COPD is irreversible.
So if you say asthma is reversible, what does it mean?
No, please, what I'm trying, I mean, it can be curable.
It's curable.
Yes, please.
That is the meaning of reversibility.
No, please, that's my mind.
Who can do it better from me?
Thank you, Doc.
Who can do it well for me?
Doc, please. Asthma is due to inflammation. So if you're able to reduce the inflammation, you'll be able to get the lungs and bronchos opening up. But with COPD, there's damage to the bronchos as well as the alveoli. So when there's damage, then it means that we cannot reverse what has already been destroyed.
So you are trying to tell me that in COPD there's no inflammation. Sapam.
Doc, please, the problem with COPD is the damage to the structures of the lungs. But in
I'm just asking that in COPD there's no inflammation.
Doc, please, there is.
So why do you say that in asthma there's inflammation in COPD? You get it? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, please.
So your point is that in asthma there's inflammation, in COPD there's distraction. It means that in COPD there's no inflammation, there's distraction but no inflammation. Sulu said something. I wanted Solomon to explain it well. You also have a point, but Sapon, you also have a point. But it's who can link the two? Who can link the two? Hey, class. Can you hear me?
Yes, please, Doc.
I don't hear. I want to hear your voice, please. So when you are talking about COPD, you are talking about asthma. In both situations, there will be inflammation. There will be inflammation. But COPD go beyond. So there's inflammation in COPD. But in addition to the inflammation, there's distraction. So asthma is limited to only the inflammation. But in COPD, there's inflammation. There's inflammation to the airway. There's also distraction. So these two, distraction and inflammation, and can link it to COPD. When you talk about asthma, there's only inflammation. And the basic difference is that in asthma, there's airflow limitation. There's airflow limitation. And that airflow limitation is reversible because it's involved in asthma, there's airflow limitation. And this airflow limitation is reversible. It means that when you have bronchoconstriction, you can, as a result of giving a patient medication, can reverse the constriction. But in COPD, the danger in COPD is that there's inflammation, and again, there's distraction. We have other mediators that could cause distraction, and therefore the airflow limitation under COPD is not reversible, fully reversible. So COPD is not the airflow limitation is not fully reversible. But in asthma, it is because of what happens. The inflammatory mediators that are involved in COPD and mediators that are involved in asthma. Asthma, there's inflammation limited. It's limited to only inflammation. The place becomes inflamed. And when the place becomes inflamed, who can tell me when a place is inflamed? Who can tell me some of the pathological changes that could occur along the airway? Some of the pathological changes that could occur along the airway.
Doc, please.
There could be
Airway remodeling.
So there is airway remodeling. Tell us the actual thing that will occur. There's a remodeling. What are so what tell me the remodeling that you're talking about? The type of remodeling that you're talking about.
Please, is it immunoglobulin E mediated?
Come again.
So please, is it the immunoglobulin E mediated?
You are telling me that in asthma there's remodeling. And I want to know the type of remodeling that you are talking about. You get what I'm saying? You need to
No.
understand.
So please, I don't.
Again,
So please, I don't. Yes.
you don't, your line, I'm not getting your line. You said what?
But please, I don't really get the question.
You heard what? You don't understand the question.
No, please.
What I ask the changes that occur along the airways. And you are telling me there'll be remodeling. And I want to know the type of remodeling that you are talking about that will occur along the airways in asthmatic patients. When there's an attack, when there's an episode, what type of remodeling are you talking about? You are telling me remodeling. What type of remodeling are you talking about?
Oh, please. Bronchial remodeling.
Bronchial what?
The bronchial remodeling.
Yes. Hold on. Okay, so in asthma, there was inflammation. In asthma, hello class. In asthma, there's inflammation. In asthma, if there's inflammation, what will happen to the airway? We're talking about remodeling. What type of remodeling? There could be edematous along the airways, edematous, as a result of the inflammation. The place will become inflamed, and fluid can seep into the inflamed area. So there could be edematous. So asthma, I said it's as a result of inflammation causing constriction. But in COPD, there's inflammation, so there could be constriction in COPD, and there's destruction. Some of the organs over there are destroyed because of certain mediators that are involved in COPD. So there's destruction plus the inflammation. That is why you could also be getting wheezing sound in where? In COPD patients. There could be wheezing sound in COPD patients. So note this, in asthmatics, we have inflammation. In COPD, we have inflammation plus destruction. So that is that. So when you talk about COPD it's one of the respiratory disease, and it's characterized by airflow limitation. These airflow limitation is not fully reversible. It's not fully reversible. This airflow limitation is not fully reversible. It's one thing that you should know, that COPD is progressive. COPD is progressive. It's very important to know this is progressive because of the distraction. Because of the distraction, it's progressive. So when you talk about COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, chronic, and this COPD covers a lot of conditions. COPD covers a lot of conditions. It covers a lot of conditions. So we have COAD, we have COLD. So we have chronic bronchitis, and we have emphysema. So all these conditions come under COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So what is COAD? What is COAD? What is COAD? Class, are you there?
Yes, Doc.
What is COAD? What is COLD? Oh, COAD, COLD. What is COAD?
Chronic obstructive airway disease.
It will take you 5 minutes to answer simple things. So chronic obstructive airway disease. And COLD, what is that?
Chronic obstructive lung disease.
So chronic obstructive airway disease, chronic obstructive lung disease, and we have chronic bronchitis and emphysema. So look at something. Chronic bronchitis would affect the airway. So in actual fact, these 4 conditions could be grouped into 2. COPD covers chronic obstructive airway disease, chronic obstructive lung disease, and you have chronic bronchitis and emphysema. And when you talk about chronic bronchitis affects the airways, and therefore it will come under COAD. Chronic emphysema will also come under chronic obstructive lung disease. Chronic obstructive lung disease, because this occurs within the lungs. Emphysema mostly occurs within the lung. So emphysema will also come under this. So we have these four, but basically emphysema will be under COLD. Chronic bronchitis will also come under airway. It's come under chronic obstructive airway disease. So that is that. I will come back to the ninth definition for COPD. I don't want to touch it now. I'll come back and do that because there are certain things that you need to know such that you understand what ninth says about the definition for COPD. So what I've said so far is COPD is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and it's a respiratory condition characterized by airflow limitation. And I'm saying that the limitation is not fully reversible. The airflow limitation is not fully reversible. The condition is progressive. Why is it progressive? Because it's associated with an abnormal inflammatory response. It's associated with abnormal inflammatory response of lungs to these noxious particles or gases. There's abnormal inflammatory response of lungs to noxious particles or gases. So this condition is basically when you are exposed to either noxious gases or noxious particles, and you can be exposed to this COPD conditions. And I said that these conditions, this COPD covers about 4 areas. Covers chronic obstructive airway disease, covers chronic obstructive lung disease, chronic bronchitis, and we have emphysema. So we'll be talking about these emphysema and chronic bronchitis under this COPD. And mostly, patients are exposed to chronic bronchitis. Patients are exposed to chronic bronchitis when they have high atmospheric pollution. So when patients, those who get COPD are those patients who are exposed to, or they are in areas of high atmospheric pollution. This COPD, especially the bronchitis, chronic bronchitis. And people with dusty occupation. So two major risk factors are, so we have high atmospheric pollution. And 2, so dusty occupation. So who can tell me any occupation which comes under dusty occupation? Who can tell me?
Farming.
People who work at quarries.
Farming. What type of farming?
People who work at quarries.
People work at quarries.
Construction workers.
Construction worker. What type of construction?
Road construction.
So road construction could be dusty. So please, in answering such question, answering it, don't go straight to the point and say construction work such as this. Any other? We have common that comes under dusty occupation.
Galamsey.
Galamsey, is it dusty or because they can, I don't know, they pollute water more than. So coal miners, you have those who work at foundry workers. So areas that are highly industrialized, in Kumasi, let me ask Kumasi people, which area are mostly polluted, are industrialized? Which area can you say that this area is industrialized and as such there'll be pollution?
The Mayanka
Brewery area. Accra, where can we say that this area is industrialized and therefore the people over there. Come again.
Tema.
Which part of Tema?
The free zones.
So such areas are polluted. And coming home, I want us to link this coming home. If you go to our villages, what do you see? We in the city. Come again.
Dusty roads.
I mean, I'm saying in a household, what happens within a household that could also put us in that risk of getting these respiratory conditions, COPD?
With firewood.
So firewood, especially those in our villages, they use firewood. Even in our cities, some still use firewood. And what makes the use of firewood more dangerous? Looking at the area that they are burning the firewood, what makes it more dangerous? What makes it more dangerous is that their kitchen, the ventilation is poor. If you go to our rural areas, the areas that they will be cooking, they have poor ventilation and you will see smoke. And even you I don't know whether you have seen what I'm saying. If you go to our villages and you get into their kitchen where they cook, you'll be seeing the whole area will be filled with smoke. Have you seen one before? Yes or no?
Yes.
So you shouldn't think about industrial areas, constant pollution, constant inhalation. They'll be telling you something. COPD talks about the load of the pollution getting into the airway. That is COPD. It's the burden. It's the burden. It's the amount of the particles that's constantly getting into the airway. That is why cigarette or tobacco smokers are number one way, because of they can smoke 2 packets, 3 packets, 4 packets a day. And the burden, look at the burden of the particles getting into the airway. And that is what it's so, it's not normally, it's not, if you have a good ventilation and they are burning this, it's difficult for you to get it. But if poor ventilation, this is getting into the system. So it's the load of these gaseous particles. It's the load of these noxious particles. This getting into the system would initiate the COPD condition. So it's an airway condition. Airway condition different from asthma. Asthma will be only inflammation. This inflammation plus destruction of certain organs or certain parts of the airway, which makes it progressive. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay, so we talked about COPD. Where does the COPD affect? Where does COPD affect? So if you are talking about heart failure, then you'll be talking about the heart. Then you have to know something about the heart. If you are talking about COPD, where that, so you have to know the pathway, the respiration, the respiratory pathway, we have to know. So you have learned about asthma. So you should be able to tell me, the pathway, the airway. So we have this. So we have this. Okay, so tell me, what is this? What is A here? It's a rough sketch. What is A here? What is B here and B here? What is C here and C here? This is the lungs. So C, C. So what is A? Hurry up. Tell me, what is A?
Doc, please, the tricky.
A is what?
Tricky.
So A is the trachea. I want you to, because I want you to understand what goes on, what happens when you are talking about bronchitis, when you are talking about emphysema, by using these, the pathway. So the B is what? B is what?
Bronchi.
So the bronchi. Or the bronchitis. What is the C?
Bronchi.
C is what?
Bronchioles.
So the C is bronchial. So we have bronchioles. But these bronchioles is divided into two. These bronchioles, we have one entering into the lungs and one outside the lung. Who can tell me? So one is connected to the alveoli using alveoli duct. So we have that part. Then the next is the alveoli duct, and we have the alveoli. So who can tell me? I'm saying that the bronchioles are divided or comes in two parts. Who can tell me the parts? Now, C is bronchial, and we have one part outside here, and we have one part getting into the lungs, and is connected to the alveoli via the alveoli duct.
Prof. Please, the conducting and respiratory bronchioles.
You said what?
Conducting and respiratory, the bronchioles.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
I was asking about, the lecturer came here. I was asking about the sea. And I said that sea, you could have two parts of the sea. Somebody was trying to answer that. Who? Somebody was trying to tell me the parts. You should know the bronchioles. So if the bronchioles, you should know the parts of the bronchioles. Two main parts of the bronchioles. Who can tell me? Who can tell me? Hey, somebody said conducting something.
Hello.
Yeah.
Please, I was saying that we could have the conducting or terminal and then the respiratory alveoli. The respiratory bronchioles, sorry.
So where do you have the terminal and where do you have the respiratory?
So the respiratory terminates into the alveoli, whilst the terminal, they don't have an alveoli at the end.
So please note the difference. Note the B. The B, the lumen of B is bigger than the lumen of C. The lumen here, the bronchus, the lumen is bigger than the lumen of the bronchioles. If we take the bronchi, the lumen, and its first part of the bronchioles, we call the first part as terminal bronchioles. This terminal bronchioles is not entering the lungs. But the one entering the lungs is called respiratory bronchioles. It's called respiratory bronchioles. So note this. Let me ask you this. What can be found in the bronchi and the bronchioles? What are some of the cells that could be found? Any organs that could be found? What are the things that could be found within that forms part of the respiratory pathway? What are the things that could be found in? Hurry up. Mhm. Come again.
Cilia.
So ciliated bodies. Ciliated bodies. What again? Ciliated bodies. What again?
Goblet cells.
So goblet cells. Goblet cells. Goblet cells. What again? Oh, what again? What are some of the cells that could be found?
Doc, please, macrophage, immune cells.
So you could have macrophages. What again? What again? Hurry up. So you cannot even think about. We have eosinophils. We have neutrophils. So which receptors are found? What are some of the receptors which are found along the pathway? What are some of the receptors that are found along these airways, these pathways? Okay. So you could have muscarinic receptors. So we could have beta 2 receptors. So if we stimulate muscarinic receptors, what happens? If you stimulate beta 2 receptors, what happens?
Bronchial constriction.
So if you stimulate muscarinic receptors, what happens? What happens if you stimulate muscarinic receptors? I mentioned two, so when you are answering it, you should tell me it's this or this.
And please, so the beta receptors stimulating it cause constriction.
Beta receptors. When you stimulate beta receptors, it will cause what?
Sorry. Beta receptors cause dilatation of the bronchus, and then the muscarinic receptor causes constriction of the bronchus.
Okay, so when you stimulate the muscarinic, you're given acetylcholine. When you stimulate it will cause bronchoconstriction. When you stimulate this, it will cause dilatation of the bronchioles. The beta 2 receptors, when you stimulate this, it will cause dilatation. So what are the function of the ciliated bodies and goblet cells? What are the functions? What are the functions of these ciliated bodies and goblet cells?
Doc, please, the ciliated bodies are there to trap dust particles as well as other foreign particles that can get into the lungs during inhalation. And the goblet cells are to produce milk, which will trap these foreign particles to be swallowed or thrown up.
So what is the difference between ciliated bodies and goblet? Because you are telling me they will all trap
So please, the ciliated bodies are hair-like structures that will trap the foreign particles, but the goblet cells will secrete mucus, and mucus will incorporate these trapped substances the ciliated bodies trap, make it up to form the mucus, which can be thrown out or swallowed by the.
So ciliated bodies are trapping, and goblet cells also produce mucus and also be trapping. That is what you are telling me. That is what you are telling me.
So please, yes, that's.
So the goblet cells produces mucin. So produce mucus. The mucus contains mucin. And it's the mucus. Listen, it's the mucus that will trap. So the mucus does the trapping. And the ciliated bodies will expel. So note these things. The trapping is done by the mucus produced by the goblet cells. When these deaths are trapped within the mucus, then the ciliated bodies will expel this out. And so these two bodies are very, very important. COPD, very, very important. What happens in COPD is that there's proliferation of goblet cells in COPD, and there's destruction of ciliated bodies in COPD. Therefore, if there's proliferation of these, then more mucus will be produced. And if you have destruction of the ciliated bodies, what will happen is that there will be accumulation of the mucus. So this is what happens especially in bronchitis, where a patient will be having more mucus in there. This is basically what happens. Okay. So any question up to this point? Any question up to this point? So let's talk about the risk factors for COPD. For COPD. COPD. So what are some of the risk factors?
Tobacco smoking.
So tobacco smoking. So cigar or tobacco smoking. Or cigar smoking. Any other risk factors? Hurry up, hurry up. If you are asked to mention, say, 5 risk factors, 6 risk factors for COPD, what would be? Come again.
Infections.
Infection. What type of infection?
upper respiratory tract infections.
So when you get upper respiratory tract infection, you're at risk of getting COPD. If you get, tell me some of the proper risk factors. Proper risk factors.
Please, chronic atmospheric pollutant.
Come again.
Chronic exposure to atmospheric pollutant.
Hey, is it Sapon? Sapon is talking. Your line is. So you want to talk about chronic what? So we talk about air pollution. Air pollution. So it could be indoor. It could be indoor air pollution from burning biomass fuel. It could be indoor air pollution. Indoor air pollution resulting from burning of biomass fuel. So air pollution. 3 is what? Can you talk about age as a risk?
Yes, please.
Why is age a risk? Somebody will say that I've smoked for 50 years. I'm not getting COPD. Somebody said I've smoked for just 1 year. I'm getting COPD. So age. Is age a risk factor? Yes. Why is age a risk factor? So when you are aging, it affects the ventilatory, or it can cause ventilatory impairment. And this could be subclinical. So there will be ventilatory impairment, mostly from accumulative smoking or accumulated smoking. When you smoke for long period, there's accumulation of these smoking effects coupled with the aging could give you this ventilatory impairment. So aging, especially those who have smoked for long period, will be exposed to this issue, smoking. Any other? Any other? So we have tobacco or cigarette smoking, we have age, we have air pollution. What again? Simple.
Occupation.
What?
Occupation.
Occupation, good. There are certain things, oh God. We touched on this as a risk factor when I started. And now I'm asking back. So occupation. And we touched on certain occupation. Those who work in food or
Okay. So yours was genetics.
so occupation. So occupation such as what? Coal or gold miners, farming. Somebody was touching on farming. Grain handling, industry like cement, like cotton industry. These, so occupation is a risk. Somebody was also talking about what?
Genetics.
Genetics, good. Can you go into genetics for me? Good. Genetics.
Okay. So when one is deficient in alpha-1 antitrypsin, okay, these are proteins produced by the liver which protects the lung. So when one is deficient in that, it means the person is prone to developing COPD.
So you are right. We have anti-proteinase and proteins. And this checks each other. We're talking about that. This checks each other. And when a patient is deficient in alpha-1 antitrypsin, then is at risk of getting COPD. Because these alpha-1 antitrypsin will protect the lungs against the other proteinase. We'll be talking about these proteinase and antiproteinase. There should be a balance. So if these antiproteinase, there's deficiency in this antiproteinase, which protects the lungs, then the proteinase will cause destruction. The proteinase will cause destruction. Okay, so genetics. Any other? Can you talk about gender? Can you talk about gender as a risk factor?
Yes.
You can't talk about gender as risk factor.
I think gender is also a risk factor, especially in males.
Why in males?
Because males smoke more than females, so they are prone to developing COPD.
So gender, initially, because of male, initially that was the thought, that male, because of the incident of tobacco smoking, more pronounced in what? In males, more pronounced in males. Initially, that's the thought, but now we are afraid of the ladies. Oh, what is the name? Giving it to? They have something. I don't know the name. They call it what?
Shisha.
Shisha.
There you go.
Yeah, shisha and vaping.
Shisha. And the ladies are doing well in that area. And there's one danger about, let me tell the ladies, one danger about this. So this is by default. Women have greater airway reactivity. This is by default. Women, they have greater airway reactivity. And therefore, and therefore a little we can push them to get this COPD. So gender is a risk, but women is more at risk than men. Why? Because of their airway. Their airway have greater airway reactivity, and they can experience faster decline in FE. We talk about this FEV. It can be easily decline of this FEV. But men are at risk because of the higher incidence of what? Of cigar smoking. Men is at risk. So that is what? That's any other risk factors for any other? So this risk factor is socio-economic status. Socio-economic status. And they realize that COPD is more common in individuals of low socio-economic status, more common in individuals of low socio-economic status. More common. Get to the ghettos. When you get to the ghettos, you see you'll be combining a lot of things. So it's more common there. So these are some of the risk factors of COPD. These are some of the risk factors of COPD. Okay, so let's talk about the causes. Now, causes of COPD. Causes of
Sir,
hello.
Please, can immunocompromised person also be at? Can he also be a risk factor?
Hold on for me. Hold on for me. Hello, somebody was asking about immune.
Yeah.
Look, for COPD, I will say big no, but small yes. I will say big no, but small yes. There could be infection. There could be infection, but it will be difficult for the infection to initiate the COPD. It will be difficult, but it's possible that some of the viral infection could cause distraction. Could be possible for some of the viral. So when you talk about the causes, we don't talk about infection. We talked mostly about these tobacco smoking, those things, but we don't talk about that. Nothing is, it could be possible that certain viral infection could cause destruction too. But it's not mostly as a result of these infections, but it could be. Do you get it? Hello?
Yes.
So let's talk about the causes. Causes. So number one cause of COPD is tobacco smoking. Tobacco. Number one, this is the major cause of COPD. This is the major cause of COPD. Major cause. 95% of patients who come with COPD are patients taking cigar or tobacco. And here it's not common in Ghana. Not too common, because we don't see these smokers around a lot. But outside, they do. One person can take about 5 packets a day. And so it's the major cause of this. And I'm telling you, I'm saying that, listen, when you are talking about this, we are talking about the load of these particles that will get into the airway. And it's not only the load, it's the constant load that will get there. We'll be talking about bronchitis. When you get there, you appreciate it. The constant load getting into there. When you are bombarding the area, every time you are smoking, the constant load that is getting into the airways will result to this COPD. So for this, we normally use a formula. We quantify. We want to quantify the load that gets there. The tobacco exposure. The exposure to these tobacco or cigar smoking. We want to quantify it, and that will tell us how much burden you are putting in your airways. And you call that quantity, we have pack years. We call it pack years. So the pack years, when you calculate your pack years, the pack years will tell us your tobacco exposure and the load you are putting in. So I say that for this tobacco smoking, we are talking about the load, and we are talking about the frequency, constant load putting in on your respiratory pathway. And so we can know this load and the frequency by calculating the pack years. These pack years would expose the patient, would tell us how the patient has a risk of developing COPD. So this is the tobacco exposure, and your tobacco exposure is quantified using the pack years. Quantify using the pack years. The pack years. The pack years is calculated. So the total pack years. So say the total pack years will be equal to the number of cigar, the number of cigars smoked per day. The number of cigars smoked per day over 20 times the number of years of smoking. So the total pack years, this is telling us the tobacco exposure of a patient, your exposure of a patient, and your pack years will determine whether you will develop COPD, you are at risk of developing COPD or not. And the total pack years is the number of cigar smoked per day over 20 times the number of years smoked. Why the 20? Why do you have 20 in the formula?
Dr. Peter, please cigarettes in a packet.
Hello?
There are 20 sticks in a pack.
So there are 20 sticks in a pack. So 20, that is why it's 20. Hold on for me. I've gotten a visitor. Hold on.
Some contain 25.
Experience.
Tell us about it.
It's for scientific reasons. He's exploring for science.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Okay, so the pack heat. Somebody said 25. What is 25? I heard somebody saying 25. Oh,
Yeah.
what was that 25?
And the person was saying that some of them come in 25, the pack.
So the person is a specialist. Who said it comes in 25? The majority of cases is 20, not 25. It's 20. The pack comes in 20 sticks, not 25. Comes in 20 sticks, not 25. So this is the formula. Total pack years is the number of cigars smoked per day over 20 times number of years smoked. Be careful about this calculation. Be careful about this. The question could be asked. I've said question on this before, but we could confuse you. So they will tell you that maybe Mr. AK is 65 years and he started smoking at the age of 30. At the age of 30 years, he started smoking. So if you are asked, then you could put, and if, okay, so if I say he smoked so much, he smoked, let him say, smoke maybe 40 sticks a day. Calculate the total pack years. Calculate the total pack years. So I think I'm listening. I'm listening now. How do you calculate the total pack years for this patient?
70.
60.
The same group, one is saying 70. Is it 72?
70.
70.
62.
Smoking for 30
This
years.
is 70 pack years.
So it's 70. Why the 70?
Doc, please, because the calculation of the pack years is a product of the number of cigarettes smoked per day multiplying the number of years of smoking. So the person started from at age 30, and as of now, the person is at age 65. So that has to be you have to find the difference, which is yes, which is 35 years. And for that will be the value. So it's going to be 35 multiplied by the number of smoke per day, which is 40 cigarettes over the 20, resulting in a 70 per years. Yes, please.
So that is that. So be careful about this. Be careful, you are right. Be careful about this. If you don't take care, you'll be taking the 65. Be careful about this back here. So this is the way to assess the patient exposure to. So the higher the pack is, the higher the risk. Another cause is we have proteinates and anti-proteinates imbalance. We have proteinates and anti-proteinates imbalance, which is the cause. We're talking about genetics. Talking about genetics. And we have proteinates. And these proteinates, these proteins cause destruction to the lungs, cause destruction to the airway. And we have antiproteinates. So antiproteinates. This also protects the lungs. So the main proteinates, that is dangerous. These proteinates are proteolytic enzymes. When I say proteinates, these are proteolytic enzymes. The main proteolytic enzymes that cause destruction to the lungs or the airways, they are called neutrophil elastin. Very, very dangerous proteins. We call it neutrophil elastin, and they are released from macrophages and neutrophils. So in asthmatics, we don't have this involvement of these antiproteins. The neutrophil elastin, we don't have these because it does cause distraction to the airway. So they are released by either macrophages. Or neutrophils. And these cause damage. They cause damage, serious damage to the airways. And we have antiproteinates. Proteinases causes distraction. An example of these proteinases are neutrophil elastin, and this causes damage. We have antiproteinases, and these antiproteinases also protect. And the main antiproteinases are the alpha-1 antitrypsin. These alpha-1 antitrypsin always inhibits the effect of these proteinases, and there should be a balance between this. So when you have a situation where we have imbalance between the proteinases, the proteolytic enzymes called proteinases and antiproteinases, such that the proteinases exceeds, there's imbalance, this becomes higher than antiproteinases, then the patient is at the risk of getting COPD. Proteinases released by macrophages or neutrophils will cause damage to the airway, parts of the airway. So when a patient comes by default, with this deficiency in antitrypsin, then there's a problem. Alpha-1 antitrypsin, then there's a problem. If there's a deficiency, it means that the good one will be low and the bad one will be on automatic. This imbalance will cause distraction too. So take note of this. Oxidative stress oxidative stress tends to inhibit the activity of antiproteinases. Oxidative stress tends to do that. And cigarette smoke also tends to also do that. So we have oxidative stress, we have cigarette smoking, and this would inactivate the alpha-1 antitrypsin. And if this happens, then there will be imbalance that will cause antitrypsin to be low in the system, and therefore proteinases will be high, and this will cause distraction. So oxidative stress is also a cause of getting COPD. Oxidative stress will be a cause to this COPD. Lads. Hello.
Hello.
Okay, I've gotten a message, and they are on my neck. So let's make it tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll not be having any orientation for our students.
Okay.
So I would try and see whether I can do it in the morning and do it some in the evening, such that we can either finish. So let him have time for the visitors. Okay, so sorry. So good night. Bye.
Good night.
Okay.
No, but